it needs a fizzling caffeinated bullshit drink. Who would actually buy that? Cookies, man. It's a beautiful thing. I would pick a cookie over ice cream every day. Come at me. Come at me. This is a very contentious thing. I'm proud of my stance on this
Apple
issue.
pie?
Oh, pie is another thing entirely. I didn't mention pie, bro. You disagree? Ice cream?
In the summer, nothing can beat ice cream.
Have you had pumpkin pie? You don't?
Pumpkin pie is gross.
I think pumpkin pie is awesome.
No, it's not. It's okay.
I think it's if you grow up here eating it your whole life, it's kind of different.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah. You've had like apple pie, all the pies.
Pecan.
Pecan pie is very good. Yeah. Have you ever had you know what rhubarb is? Rhubarb is
It's like sweet celery.
yeah, it's like a red sweet celery. But the big one is strawberry and rhubarb. And rhubarb is kind of
Are we good? Are we good? Oh, can you hear me? Hello, UT. Welcome to Fiscally Delicious, our food and beverage food festival. Are you guys having a good time? Yeah? You got something in your bellies? You're like ready to like pay attention up here. Here's some Ignite talks, some from our different UT alum that are going to inspire us on the food and beverage industry. So I just want to tell you a little bit about Imagine Moody. I am Erin Riley. I'm the founding director of innovation and entrepreneurship for Moody College of Communication and a professor here in the Stan Richards School. Any of y'all in that school? No? Okay. The goal with Imagine Moody is to really help you think about innovation and entrepreneurship. And what we like to say is Moody College is about living at the cultural intersection of where innovation meets entrepreneurship. And I thought it was perfect to start with food and beverage because in my listening tour in fall, I realized that of a lot of our alumni who are entrepreneurs are in the food and beverage industry. So we'll definitely think about some inspiration. I want to actually thank our sponsors, Factory. Tim, can you raise your hand in the back? And HEB, Callie and Giovanna, raise your hand. Thank you for our platinum sponsors. And the Herb Kelleher Center is also a sponsor. Ashley, wave your hand. Yeah. So definitely go around and thank them for helping us put this on. And this would not have been possible without what I call my Moody Imagineers. These are a group of student volunteers that have really been working this past semester, really helping us think through from a student perspective what innovation and entrepreneurship should look like for our college. So Moody Imagineers, raise your hands. Please go talk to them. A lot of them are seniors, and we're always looking for more. And they could tell you what it's like to be an Imagineer and what are some of our future plans. So let's get this program started. How about that? Sound good? Okay. We have Tim up here, and he's going to share a little bit about what Factory is.
Thank you, Erin, and I want to thank Dean Bernhardt and the school for inviting us to participate in this. It's pretty what? No. I'll probably just fall off. It's pretty exciting. The whole idea is very exciting to us. I think being a food and beverage entrepreneur, which I've been doing now for almost 20 years, is the most challenging and probably rewarding thing I've ever done in my career. And I hope some of you are going to have that opportunity and take advantage of what's being offered here at UT Austin and particularly at the Moody School to lay some of the tracks and foundations you'd need to succeed. What I'm going to do is try really, really hard not to scare you, okay? Because if you, it's all very doable, but there are challenges. So let's talk about those. If you put those in the right context, then what you do here at school can, I think, be quite helpful to you. All right, rewarding but challenging. Let's move on. Okay. This is, all right, getting started is really the easy part in entrepreneurship with food and beverage, right? You need an idea, right? Go back. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's fine. You need to figure out, this is just a series of steps that gets you going. You need to figure out how to make, the product, right? You need to raise some seed capital, probably friends and family. You need to figure out how to brand it. Hopefully, if you're not good at that, you know people who are. You need to design a logo and a package. Again, usually most of the people we meet tend to tap into friends to do that. You need to find somebody who can actually make it, a co-packer, because very few people get started with their own factory. There are some on our table down there. There's a brand called Pipcorn. They started making it in about a 2,000 square foot facility in East Harlem, and then are now making about $3 million a year's worth out in Indiana in a major factory, and it's going from there. You can probably start selling online, so it's a lot easier to get into the food and beverage business today than it was, say, 20 years ago, because of the outlets that are there. You've learned to activate social media, and most of you have grown up with social media, so that's not as hard as it was for my generation. You need to go to a trade show and set up a booth like this and spend 3 days with thousands of people coming by and hope to telling your story and giving away more product than you can imagine giving away for what the whole thing costs. But one retailer, two retailers show up and you make a deal and suddenly it's all worth it. And then you need to, and then you've got sort of that first step done, all right? But there's more, because you have to learn about ingredient sourcing. Where do you get the ingredients? How do you do that economically? Efficient manufacturing. Margins are really important in this business, so you've got to know how to make it as best you can. Then there are the government regulations, getting worse and worse. The nutritional facts, the claims you can make on package, the size of everything that you have to have, the order in which you have to put your ingredients. All of that comes into play. If you're doing anything in meat, you now bring the USDA into play. That makes it even harder because they've got rules on top of rules. You've got to get into quality assurance and food safety, and you've got to be checking your co-packer to make sure they're following all the rules. You need to know how retailers work, everything from the paperwork they require, which is often voluminous, to the way that they run their promotions and the money that they want to take out of your pockets for themselves in order to display your product, and that you haven't even sold it yet. You just got it there. The role of distributors and brokers, who are all part of this ecosystem of food and beverage distribution in this country. You've got to create content for your website, for your social media activities. There's a big creative aspect to it. You've got to learn to manage your finances and your cash flows and your gross margins, which are critically important. And finally, you've got to go raise more money, because by now you're out of that friends and family money, and you've got to do that with as little dilution as possible. I can't tell you how many times we find entrepreneurs that we talk to and say, what do you have left and still own? And they're like 3%, 5%, and they started with 100% 3 years ago. And so be smart about raising money and holding equity for yourself, so that and by the way, all of this stuff, some of all of this you've all heard watching Shark Tank, and there's that it all starts with, as soon as somebody introduces themselves and they're all jolly and hello sharks, and here's who I am, and here's what I've got, and here's why you should give me your money, and the very first question is, have you sold anything? And then Mr. Wonderful says, and what's your margin? And then it all goes downhill. So to have thought about this stuff first, which an awful lot of entrepreneurs who make it to Shark Tank, who actually have a little business, have never thought of most of this. And you see it every night if you watch the show. By the way, it's a great laboratory to watch the show for anybody who wants to get in, even though food and beverage is only probably 10% of the things that you see. How they operate is really valuable. But now let's just say you've got all of this, and you've figured all this stuff out, and you're really pretty smart, and you can make this business go. And I know, I mean, we have entrepreneurs in our portfolio who have done all of this stuff, and they know way more than I know, and I've been around a lot longer than they have. You know, I'm in awe of that. But then there's this next problem that comes up, and it's this. It's the consumer. And it's like, you've got all of that, and oh, yeah, there's them. I got to deal with them. And without them, they have no business to begin with. So, you know, my feeling is that you probably ought to start there, but nobody does. Everybody starts with all the stuff you need to know to get a business, starting with the idea, bringing it all the way through. And the real place to start is right here. And that's where I think a place like Moody comes into play so much, because communications with consumers, understanding them, having that dialogue, being able to figure out what's going to work, how, and why is fundamental to everything. If consumers aren't going to buy your product, there's no reason to ever start down this path. So do they want it? Do they need it? Does it make sense? Or are you just talking yourself into it because you have an idea and you want that idea to work? There's not much, I mean, you know, it's like I said, it is figuring all of that out, and we'll get into a little more when in the Ignite talk. But finally, this whole notion of scaling up, and I have yet to meet an entrepreneur who doesn't tell me they're working 24/7. I go around to anybody here dispute that you're working 24/7 to build your business. Well, now you want to scale it up, and the first thing I think about is go to 48/7, because there's no other way. And it just doesn't work. And so what we find is you need to find talents and bodies, and you've got to manage them, and managing them is different than having an idea and learning about how to build a business. And now you're talking about building a company. So the real question that I would ask up front, if you're going to go into food and beverage entrepreneurism, is do you want to run a company for the rest of your life, or do you love creating ideas, bringing those ideas to market, creating a brand, selling that brand, taking those proceeds, putting some away, and starting the next business? And if you're an entrepreneur, that's where you want to go, and you don't want to build a company. You want to build a brand and maximize the value of that brand and go to the next thing. If you're a person who is in love with bars, and you want to, the guy who did Cliff Bar could have sold early, decided, no, I want to be in the bar business for the rest of my life. There aren't many of those out there. Most entrepreneurs don't want that. So what we did with Factory is we started we decided to try to rewrite the script. And what we did was we built the company in a sort of bare bones fashion. We do everything at Factory that goes into innovating and scaling up except manufacture. We do not do that. And although we've just built our first factory outside of our factory because we had an entrepreneur with a great product that he didn't, nobody could make. It was a brand new idea. So we said, okay, you tell us how to make it, and we'll build the factory for it. And the product launched yesterday. It's over on I don't have any on the table. It launched yesterday. Walmart has taken every single box that we can make, and we won't have any to give out probably for another 3 months. But it's called Stuffed Puffs, and you'll see it all summer, and some of you may have already seen it. It's social media pretty hard this week. But the idea here is build brands and help the entrepreneur realize their dream of making a lot of money and getting on to the next dream. So we put all the resources to scale up under one roof. And it's nobody's done it before. We were told we were crazy. We probably were. We invested about $10 million into the operation with a test kitchen and with packaging and graphics design, and we've got a food lab. We have a beverage lab. We do all our own social media. We do all our own in-house research, and we are investing in small brands and helping them realize that dream. And what I have talked to Aaron about and to Dean Bernhardt about is, how do we find some really serious food and beverage entrepreneurs and maybe get them involved to come up, spend some time with us, because you get a crash course in what is it to take a brand from a small to a large scale. What are all the things that it takes? What do you need to know? How to get there? So hopefully this relationship that Factory can have with the school, that Factory will have with the community. We know we're here in Austin quite a bit because the two real seats of entrepreneurial activity in this country, I find, are Boulder and Austin. And Boulder is probably the lead in terms of food and beverage. Austin also has a big tech side. But Whole Foods being here and H-E-B being so close, and there's nobody more innovative than H-E-B when it comes to the retail side and promoting innovative products and backing entrepreneurs. So love being here. We'll be here a lot, I hope, and thank you all for coming.
Okay, thanks so much. So we are going to go right into our Ignite talks, but I just want to point out, how many of you filled out the game that we're doing on becoming a Moody foodie? Anyone? Okay, so at the front table where Jake and Jonathan are, when we're done with, Jake's raising his hand, when we're done with the Ignite talks, feel free to go around and network and get your unicorn stamp at each of these tables, and we're going to do a drawing at the end of Fiscally Delicious for a good prize with gift bag and more. So I'm going to pass this on to Anna, and we'll get going on these Ignite talks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Thank you for being here. Thank you to all of our presenters and participants for being a part of our first Fiscally Delicious. I am just going to introduce our first speakers for our Ignite Talks, Callie Grant and Giovanna DiPerio, and they are going to be talking to us from HEB. And Callie is also a Moody alum. Woo! We're going to start with a short video.
So I did all this research online. I couldn't find anything about it.
ITK actually stands for In the Kitchen with HEB.
No, we had no idea.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for being here today. It's such a great event. We're here to talk a little bit about creating some innovative experiences. And the video that you just saw was an event that we did called ITK South by Southwest. Normally, we meet people here. We have been around for 114 years, and if you interact with HEB, it's normally inside one of our grocery stores. But in the spirit of innovation, with people moving to Austin that are new to the area and don't know what an HEB is, as well as people wanting to find new experiences to interact with the brand, we decided to do something a little bit different and go meet customers where they were. The inspiration for this came from an unlikely place. I don't know if you guys have seen the Italian restaurant skit on SNL. I would definitely recommend watching it if you haven't. But good ideas can come from anywhere, and sometimes a good idea can stick with you for months and years until you find the right place and the right time to implement it. And again, in meeting people where they were, this was something that helped us get to that point. We also looked at data to see that people were actually moving out of the kitchen and into restaurants. And so that's something that is not necessarily great if you're a grocery store. And why? Because people actually enjoy spending time at a meal and the whole event of a meal out with other people and making it kind of a cultural moment. So how could we do something that both met people where they were, dealt with the fact that people were eating at restaurants more, and make something a little bit more of a cultural moment? At the same time, You guys know this. There's a lot of new people that are moving to Austin, and to them, H-E-B doesn't quite mean grocery store the same way it does here. If you're from Connecticut or California, an H-E-B isn't necessarily synonymous with where you get your food. If you are from here, you know that H-E-B has delicious ice cream, amazing tortillas, I'm a little biased, but some awesome products, but even our own customers don't always know that we have amazing meat that's rated some of the best in Texas. And good meat doesn't have to come from a butcher shop, nor does good produce. Produce doesn't have to come from a CSA or from a farmer's market to be awesome. We have amazing relationships with some local providers. So how do you take the problem that people are eating out more, people want an experience of a meal, and there's not maybe as much knowledge about the freshness of meat, the freshness of produce, and the amazing things that you can get from the H-E-B? You turn it into a pop-up event called ITK Restaurant Group.
Yes, so Giovanna, as she mentioned, inspiration can come from anywhere, and we knew we wanted to do something really exciting for our customers in Austin. South by is a time when people flood downtown Austin from all over the world, and brands pack themselves into the downtown area and take over huge activations for people who aren't from here. Well, we are, and we get it. We get it, Austin, we get you. So we wanted to do something special for Austinites outside of the South by Southwest noise. So that created the ITK Restaurant Group. What if we threw a culinary experience so epic and so enjoyable that it reignited the excitement around cooking from home for customers? What did we do? We wanted to build a little bit of suspense. So we created a fake brand called the ITK Restaurant Group, invited influential Austinites from all over the city, including social influencers and industry leaders, to an epic one-night meal. What did that mean? The food had to be perfect. The food had to be perfect. The area had to be perfect. We wanted it to saturate the Austin market. So these 85 people, we wanted to give them a reason to share their experience while they're at our event. We worked with our culinary team to develop a 6-course meal that was pretty darn epic. The culinary team put up a pop-up kitchen in the back of the hotel. They literally served over 450 plates of food, and mystery and intrigue started building throughout the evening. So once all the plates were cleaned and all the seats were filled, we had to tell them who was behind this absolutely epic evening. H-E-B. A team of chefs marched out from the back holding H-E-B baskets full of own brand products and fresh local produce from their local H-E-B.
And in terms of what happened next, it worked. Not only did we find a way to enchant all of our customers and let them know that there was great food that they could get at their H-E-B, we also got a lot of nationwide coverage, which is really helpful when you're in the world of advertising and marketing, that people wanted to talk about it. And they didn't just want to talk about it because it was a stunt. They wanted to talk about it because, as the first line of the article says, eating at home doesn't have to mean meatloaf or mashed potatoes. Eating at home can mean whatever you define it as. In the same vein, the people that we invited posted about it because we gave them something fun to post about. We gave them some beautiful food. We gave them a surprise. We gave them an experience that made those posts go a little bit further than just asking somebody to tweet a hashtag, right? But when it comes to Twitter, people still tweeted about it. In fact, H-E-B has great cult-like following, great brand loyalty, that even people who weren't at the event saw it, because part of the mission that we had was, how do we extend this beyond the 85 people that are here, and how do we make this part of an ad campaign to get people excited to cook from home? So even those who weren't involved were really inspired and saw some of the recipes and decided this was something that they wanted to try as well. And we have a In the Kitchen video recipe series on YouTube that to date, as you saw, has over 50 million views, where we can act as a sous chef in somebody's home and kind of bridge that gap between what you know about cooking and what you want to do about cooking, and be there for customers, whether they're in line waiting at the grocery store, whether they're at home staring into their fridge wondering what they're going to do with their leftovers, or whether they're planning an epic meal for their customers. So as a food company, it's really important to us to inspire, educate, and make people feel great about the food that they're eating. And this was our pop-up event and how we brought it to life. So thank you.
Thank you, Callie and Giovanna. Up next, we have Antonelli's Cheese Shop. Kendall. Hello, hi. let me introduce Kendall. She is the co-founder and president of Antonelli's Cheese Shop. If y'all have been around to check it out, delicious. She is going to be giving her Ignite talk on how advocating for yourself drives revenue.
So my mom tells me this story when I was growing up, and it's always stuck with me. She was in high school running for cheerleader, and yes, it was a popularity contest, which makes me want to gag all over myself just hearing it. And the teacher's going around homeroom and collecting ballots, and she puts her ballot in. And the teacher picks it up in front of everybody and opens it up and says, "Well, look ye here, Debbie voted for herself." And when my mom tells this story, I can feel it for her. I feel it in my gut. Her eyes tear up. She feels self-conscious. I mean, to this day, she wants to throw up all over herself. If she's on the phone right now, she'd do it because she just can't stand this memory. I get it, but why? Why are we taught that? If you were a political candidate and you're running for office and you go put your opponent's name in the ballot box and somebody else sees you do that, don't you think that they're going to say, "Oh, something's wrong. We don't know. She's got some insider information. She doesn't believe in her own capabilities," or something like that? We've got to learn how to toot our own horns, y'all. But we, as women, especially as women, are told when we grow up that advocating for ourselves is offensive. It's off-putting. We're taught to talk the talk, but more importantly, don't talk the talk, walk the walk. Let your actions speak louder than words. Yes, all that's true, but it's challenging because how, when you're a business owner or entrepreneur or you're submitting a resume or applying for a job, how do you present yourself and say what you're about in a way that attracts people and doesn't repel them and instead makes them want to champion you and be an advocate for you, and then most importantly, so you can stick around a long time in a way that drives revenue? So I own Antonelli's Cheese Shop with my husband, and we opened it almost 10 years ago, and we are a small but mighty business. We are a 700 square foot shop, yet we have international acclaim and have won awards nationwide and all around. And really, that's because of three steps that we kind of boiled it down to. We've had a lot of screw-ups, but we've had a lot of successes too, and this is kind of my go-to formula for it. First and foremost is networking or business 101. You've got to get out there and relationship build. But I don't mean a general umbrella, like make sure you're communicating or working with the public. What specific tactics are you going to employ when you're trying to launch yourself? And if you're later on in life, you probably have a big PR company, but you don't really get that when you're first starting out. So it's you needing to call the TV news anchors and the producers and find out who they are. If you don't know every one of your local TV anchors and producers of daytime shows, that's on you, it's not on them. Don't wait for them to reach out to you and say, "Hey, you're doing great work." That hopefully will happen, and your work should speak for itself, but you need to advocate for yourself and reach out to them and be the first and proactive one to do it. They're always looking for content. So if you can reach out to them and give it to them, you're making their jobs easier. And just remember, when you're on TV and live TV, they're trying to make you look good, but you need to make them look good too. You need to bring it. You need to bring your full, authentic self. You need to be real. You need to be honest. You need to be gracious and grateful. Thank them on live TV. Don't forget that part. Remember the host's name. Look it up right before you go on, and don't screw that up. Afterwards, we always leave cheese morsels for everybody, and we send a thank you. And when I'm pitching to them, I don't expect them to know that January 20th is National Cheese Lovers Day. Did y'all know that? No, right? But it's a great opportunity for me to tell them, "Hey, you need some content, get this on the news, let's chase cheese together." You can also contact local newspapers, local publications, and submit something for content to write, so just keep that in mind. Or provide quotes on other products or other entrepreneurs or other people doing good jobs, and that'll put you in the spotlight, but in a way that's lifting others up. Every single time we've been on the news, and we've been on the news about, 30 times or something like that, it has driven customers into our shop. And most of those times, we were putting our names in the hat. We were reaching out to them. We weren't waiting for them to reach out to us. So make sure you do that. It affects the bottom line. Every time we drive foot traffic, shop purchases go up, and so that's one of the main things that we do as a specific tactic in Antonelli's Cheese Shop. The next one is pretty challenging. This one is hard, and this is the one I'm embarrassed to tell you about today. You have got to put your own name in the hat. And for us as a business strategically, that has meant nominating ourselves for awards. So that takes a lot to say. I stand here before you say, yes, I have nominated myself for that Best Woman of Whatever award. It all started a few years ago when a director of an organization came to me and said, Kendall, I think you need to nominate yourself for this. And I did some self-deprecating humor. I felt awkward about it. Why would she ask me to do that? After all, if I was doing an awesome job, shouldn't she kind of give me a pat on the back and say I'm worthy and put my name in that hat? But she didn't. And instead she said, well, why wouldn't you promote yourself? I wish I could say, oh, it was easy, and I just went ahead and did it. Instead, I went home and I agonized for weeks. I talked to my mom. I talked to my husband. I thought, what am I going to do? How can I do this? So I got over my fear. I don't know. I didn't get over my fear. I just swallowed it. I said, okay, let's do this. I put my name in the hat. I was later named a finalist. And even that moment when I was walking up to the stage, which I didn't know if I had won yet or not, I felt it. It was that cheerleading story moment in my stomach, in the depths of my soul. I said, this woman is going to call me out and say that I nominated myself in front of this room full of hundreds of people. I was so nervous, you guys, just because it felt like it was fraudulent or like I didn't deserve it. Turns out I won the award, but that wasn't the part that was awesome. What was awesome is when I got back to work, my inbox was full of emails. That award later turned into a spotlight in the Austin Business Journal on female women's entrepreneurs to know, which later turned into me winning the Profile Empowers Award, which, yes, I nominated myself for, but that one's a different story. So the most important thing on all those that was hardest for me was it's challenging, and I needed to get over it and realize it wasn't an emotional decision, it was a business decision. The more I can get our name in the spotlight, whether it's mine, it's my husband's, it's our team members, whoever it is in the business, the more I can potentially drive revenue, which means the more money I have in my pocket, the more I can pay my team great benefits, and the more we can do with it and give back to our communities. And the only way we can do that is by putting our own darn names in the hat. So don't wait for other people to do it for you. But if you just do that, you're gonna seem like a pompous person. So you gotta make sure you're doing it, and the third step is in a way that expresses gratitude and paying it forward. For us, that means each time we won some popularity contest, we realized it wasn't about us, it was about every single person who nominated us or voted for us or put our name in that hat. So if it's a vote that you win as a business, thank them, thank the people who voted for you, because it's all due to them that you got it. Every time we nominate ourselves now, we put 5 other names in the hat. I'm saying every single time that I nominate our business for an award, or John or myself, I put 5 other businesses in the hat, because we're all out there hustling, we're all working together, we all want to rise together, and may the best man, woman, or business win. So, if we wrap it up, we've got to learn to get over ourselves and toot our own horns. It sounds ridiculous, but we've been taught everything opposite growing up. So how do we advocate in ourselves our way and tell people our missions and what we're doing that they should want to support us? You got to go out there and do it. You got to talk the talk and walk the walk. But most importantly, when you toot your own horn, make sure you're tooting others as well. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Kendall. Kendall is also a COLA alum. Okay, next up, we will have Daniel Getz, yes, with Good Pop, and he is also a Moody alum. Woo!
Hey guys, that was a great presentation, Antonelli's. That was awesome. Glad to learn a little bit more about that company. And anyway, guys, my name is Daniel Getz. I went to school here about 10 years ago, right across the street. I think this was a parking lot, potentially. Looks a lot nicer now. Yeah, I'm the founder of a company called Good Pop. We are based here in Austin. We make popsicles. And I want to tell you a little bit about my journey since it started right across the street. Dean Bernhardt actually called me out on being a daydreamer in class, and that's kind of, as I was explaining the story, I guess that's kind of true. So Good Pop started in 2009. I was actually a senior at UT. I was in the portfolio program. Is anyone here in the portfolio program? Anyway, I was a copywriter, and I was basically, I went through this rigorous portfolio program and was daydreaming in class, and actually started designing a popsicle brand, kind of based on my travels in Mexico and falling in love with the fruit bar, which is kind of built into the culture down there with like local ingredients, fresh fruit, and just kind of was messing around, daydreaming, and next thing you know, I've got a logo and I've got a website, and I'm planning on selling these popsicles at ACL. Put my life savings into basically making as many popsicles as I could, and the plan was to sell them at ACL and just kill it and get rich. But we didn't change the world overnight. That year, if anyone was at ACL in 2009, it was a mud pit, and we sold about 4 popsicles. I lost my life savings. All the assets were frozen, and I had to figure out what to do. Went back to the drawing board, did some SEO on our website, just kind of, that was the only asset we had at that point. And next thing I knew, when you search the word organic popsicles, we were the first company to come up, and we weren't even a company. I was just a college kid with really just some recipes and nothing. We got a stroke of good luck. A solar panel company reached out to us, and they asked us, hey, can you make us 50,000 popsicles for a solar panel tour across the Northeast? I put in a bid with some other companies. Next thing we knew, I had $40,000 in the bank, and I could restart the company. All of a sudden, we can afford boxes. And that was the vision. The vision was always to sell them at the grocery store. And all of a sudden, here we are. We're on the shelf. And just like Antonelli's and anybody else that's starting a bootstrap company, we had to do everything. I made the popsicles at night, put them in a cooler in the back of my car, which is, I still drive, it's across the street, and delivered them to Whole Foods in the morning, and then did demos during the day. And that's kind of what it took to get this thing going, and kind of where we've gone since then. So that was 2009, 2010, 2011. I was 22, 23, 24 years old. And I didn't really know how to run a business. I was figuring things out along the way. But where we've gone since then, so as of 2018, we're the top performing premium novelty brand in the country. We sell them all. Thanks, guys. That doesn't mean that we're the biggest. That doesn't mean that we do more revenue. That doesn't mean that we're in more stores. That metric is really important to me personally because one of the main things I learned going through this program at UT is being targeted and being focused on everything that you do, and that translated. And as a copywriter, every word I got destroyed for my headlines because I thought it was perfect, but it was too many words. I thought it was perfect, and it's too little words, and I would have to go back to the drawing board. And so you can't waste your words, and in business, you can't really afford to make the same mistake twice. You can't afford to, you can't afford to not be 100% targeted in everything you do, or else you just kind of end up spinning your wheels and wasting your time. So this is just a little bit of a snapshot on where we are. This is all due to hard work, being focused on the right retailer. So not just saying yes to a bad deal. Sometimes you say no and you move on. And if it's outside the scope of your target market, if it's outside the scope of your target geographic region, just move on, say no, and move on. And we've had to make good decisions along the way and be targeted and be focused. When we started out, we're going store to store at Whole Foods. That was the store that gave us a chance. And then we started looking at markets that made sense for our product, like Southern California, the Pacific Northwest, places that were forward-thinking. Because again, we couldn't make a mistake, and we were a little bit before our time on a natural popsicle product, so we had to stay super focused on where we went to go put our products. Like Antonelli's, we don't have PR. We just kind of reach out and do the right thing, and over time, you get recognized for that. And I think that's a testament to what they're doing as well. Okay, so how we got there, because I just kind of jumped ahead like 10 years on you guys. So that says it has to be about more than just the product. And that's for you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, to wake up and do the same thing every day, whether it's just 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. You got to make it about something else. So whatever it is that intrinsically motivates you, make your project about that. For us and for me, so Good Pop, and the reason the name is Good Pop, it's not about just the ingredients or the way they taste, but it's about the ability that I had when I was 22, 23 years old to create a product that could eventually be used as a vehicle to do social good. And I could never compete with, I could never write a check, but we could, but at that point in time, I had a product that I knew that made people happy when they ate it, and we use it as fundraising tools. We use it as a way to partner with nonprofits and help them fundraise. We use it as a way to generate funds for disaster relief and things along the way. And so for me, that's why the name, that's where the name came from. And so when I made it about something else, that's when I decided, okay, you know what, I could have fun with this, and I could feel really good about what I do every day. This is just a little bit about a little bit more about what we've been able to do. This is on the humanitarian side. This gives us the ability to give back in different ways. And in 2016, Ecuador had a horrible earthquake. It impacted our farmers on our fair trade bananas. We were able to jump in, partner with. We searched for someone who could guarantee that every dollar we gave them would turn into a meal. That was the World Food Program, but not just a meal, but a meal that would specifically get to these farmers. We ended up raising almost 20,000 meals that way. And then also in Hurricane Harvey, used our platform as a local Austin business to get other Austin businesses on board, and we were able to make a really, it was a really timely impact. Number 2 is working with passionate people. So I have actually, whether it's because we've never had funds to go out and hire people, but it sort of happened this way to where I've actually never hired anyone off a job posting. So I've only hired people who are passionate, who have reached out to us, who say, hey, I love your product and love what you're doing. And the rest kind of solves itself. So if you work with passionate people who care about what you're doing, and build a real team, that's where you can build a really authentic message. And that's what it takes at this point in time, because there's too much access to brands nowadays. It's too easy to understand what's authentic and what's not from a product perspective or from a company standpoint. So working with passionate people, I touched on this earlier, but I think it's really important, just staying targeted with everything you do, and trying not to get off course. And I think that's what's kept us in business and helped us be successful. So innovation, I think we haven't really talked about innovation today, but that's kind of why we're here. And just being differentiated in everything that you're doing, whether it's in food or tech or whatever you're interested in, trying to be 2 steps ahead, trying to solve problems. I think that's a common theme in innovation is solving problems, but just being innovative, from our standpoint, it's looking at a category that had never been improved upon in 40 years. Quickly learning from mistakes. Try to do that in life in general. That's trying to not make the same mistake twice. And problem solving. And I think Antonelli was talking about separating emotion. It's really important that whatever you're doing in life, it's always going to be, whatever your passion is, it's always going to be your baby. It's always going to be an emotional thing for you. If you fail, or if you get negative feedback, or if something doesn't work out your way. And early on, it's emotional because you take it personally, it upsets you. But as you go on throughout entrepreneurship or life, trying to separate out the emotion is how you can calmly solve problems that come up throughout your day, because it's not the end of the world. It's about finding a solution. And then, so I think this is kind of just a basic thing that I feel like just gets overlooked. But just honesty, integrity, and just doing the right thing in your everyday life. Let's just try that, and watch where it takes you. It's a small world, and no matter what industry you're in, you're going to cross paths with the same people. You always have to do the right thing, even if it's a setback, even if it slows you down from where you're trying to go. Doing the right thing and being honest and having integrity. And this is my big thank you for listening.
Thank you, Daniel, for sharing your story. That was really great hearing how you started from, your first experience and growing it into something else, seeing how similar and unique yours and Kendall's story was. Up next, we have Jeff Sartor with Tips Treats, and he is also a McCombs alum, UT alum, and this is Jeff.
Thank you. How's everyone doing today? Yeah. All right, so I'm going to take a pulse of the room. Who has not heard of Tips Treats? Raise your hand. All right, so there's really nobody out there who's going to ask me if I'm Tiff. My joke I tell, and this is not cheesy because I've been standing next to Kendall over there. It's just what I've been saying is, when people ask if I'm Tiff, I just say, no, I'm just 2 letters off, I'm Jeff. And it takes some people a little bit to get that joke. But actually, Tiff and Leon couldn't be here today, and they send me when they can't. I've been with Tiff's Treats since I was a sophomore here at UT, and that was in 2006. So like Mr. Goodpop said, this was a parking lot then that we used to ride bikes across because scooters weren't invented yet. Anyways, I'm here really just to simply tell you guys about what it's been like in the last 20 years at Tiff's Treats. I have been there about close to 13 now, so I can't tell you all about the first 7 years, but they did just have one location when I started, and now we're up to 49 with the opening of Lubbock today. So it's been quite a journey. And there's a lot of things I could go into. If you give me a microphone, I could talk for a long time. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to try and be that sweet spot here for you guys today in the middle of all the presenters who are giving all their time. So when I started with Tiff's Treats, it's kind of funny. We've got Mr. David Flash sitting over here, and I'll use him because we didn't have a marketing department, and he can attest to that. There was no social media. In fact, I was looking through one of my old emails and found an email from Leon that said, hey, what's this Twitter thing? Should we check into that? So, yeah, that's how long ago it was. And so how did Tiff's Treats grow? How did the brand become what it is today without all of that in that first 7 years, 10 years? Is really word of mouth. So what we leaned on is that moment that we were creating when we're sending cookies to people. And so it's funny because when I started at Tiff's Treats, I started as a delivery driver, and when we made a mistake, we used to say, it's just cookies. Don't let it ruin your day. It's just cookies. But you don't realize that cookies can mean so much more for someone. When you're sending cookies to a new mom in the hospital, there's really not a lot of people who get to go through that door. You got new family, maybe close friends, and then the Tiff's Treats cookie delivery guy. So we kind of take pride in the fact that we're able to be a part of those moments in someone's life, whether they're big like that, like a newborn baby, or small. I'll never forget one of my favorite stories to tell, and I have 1,000 of them for sending different cookies to different people, is I had a friend who went through a very bad breakup. She had been with the guy for 8 years. They were engaged, and it just dropped off a cliff. And she loved Tiff's Treats, and we took her out for dinner. And during dessert, we had Tiff's Treats delivered instead of the dessert. And she's had him a million times. She's even got him for free because she's friends with me. But she just, it just lit her face up, and she was crying, but she said they were happy tears. And so it was just that little moment, that box of 12 cookies that took it there. And what we've been doing, from word of mouth, from donations to y'all's student organization to events like this, we've been fortunate enough to build the brand that we have now. And one of the things that we have come a long ways with as far as innovation is we obviously have an app, a new website and everything, but Cookie Vision. You guys see over here, we have this big backdrop, probably wondering what Cookie Vision is. So I'll give you the quick spiel here. Cookie Vision is basically a way for you to send a video gift message with your box of cookies. So if you want to order cookies for someone and you're doing it on the Tiff's Treats app, you can quickly turn the phone into selfie mode and record that. Hey, Mom, I hope you're having a good Mother's Day weekend. Sorry I couldn't be up there. I'll see you guys soon for Christmas. Something like that. And it's really awesome. We have a way for you guys to demo it if you want over there. We're doing gift cards for anybody who follows us on Instagram or downloads the app. After all the speakers are done, of course. One of my favorite ways that we're using Cookie Vision today is we're working with soldiers who are taking messages, video messages to send to their families. So either right before they deploy, they're recording a message to send back home, or right after they get there. And it's just been fantastic to get to deliver that box to the family and show them the video from their son or daughter who's going off to do that. And then we've done some on the flip side where we've actually had the family send to the soldiers and delivered to the base before they deploy. And that's something to me that's really special to be a part of, because a lot like we were talking about with, having Good Pop, it's doing good with the purpose. At Tiff's Treats, we feel like we have it's a responsibility to make people happy and to do good with the product that we have. So I'm fortunate enough to be a part of it for as long as I have, and I love it, and I hope you guys do too, and that's really all I've got for you. So.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you for, hello. Oh, hi. Introducing our next speaker, we will be having Tim Pollack tell us a little bit more about the importance of strategy in the food and bev space.
Hi. So the first time I talked, I hope I didn't scare too many people away by some of the challenges that you have to go through and the work you've got to do to be an entrepreneur in food and beverage. This time I want to talk about what we actually do and what we look for in making an investment. What Factory is, we invest in small food and beverage companies, 2 to 20 million in sales, and we help them scale up. And that's our mission. We take a big position in those companies, but then we team up with them. We do everything with them hand in hand. So this is what we've got $250 million that we're able to raise. We built a facility that's an end-to-end facility with all of the resources that a new company needs to scale up under one roof. And we check before we make the investment, we put them through a very, very diligent process to understand whether or not they can make it and whether we think they can make it. So I'm going to just take you through the things that we think are really important. Starting with this 40% gross margin net of trade, which if you're not at least at 40 and you should be at 50, you just will never generate enough cash to actually build the business and build the brand. First up is differentiation, a reason to believe, or a reason to believe in. So a reason to believe for Stuffed Puffs, which is over on our table, is that you know with the chocolate inside the marshmallow, you're getting the best s'more that's ever been made, and the easiest. So it's an easy one to believe in that's so different. No one else has ever done it before. But a reason to believe in can be something very different. It can be, for example, if you look at the Pockets ad that I have over there, we can see the ingredient list, and one is about 60 long and one is like 33 long. And if you read the ingredients, the reason you believe in it is you know it's a better for you food. It's got to be meaningful to its addressable market. And basically, without differentiation, it is impossible for a new brand to gain any traction. So that to me is number one. Number two is it's got to taste good. Now, you'll notice the disclaimer of taste good to its addressable market. And what makes that important is that there are products for people who want to eat a certain way or need to eat a certain way, whether it's gluten-free, whether it's paleo, whether it's a clean ingredient, et cetera, that don't taste good to everybody. But to the people who want them, an English muffin made with 7 ingredients like Mikey's is really, really good because it meets those criteria. To somebody who doesn't care, it doesn't have the sugar, it doesn't have the starch, and it doesn't matter. So it has to taste good to people to whom you are selling it. If a product does not taste good, it will not scale, flat out. People will try it once and they won't. There are too many options out there. Scalable. Looking for trends, not fads. That's, again, critical. Paleo, to me, is a fad. Clean eating is a trend. There are probably 50% of what we see at the food shows these days are fads. We tend to try to see through that. We see through those. We look for the trends. What has some staying power? Because if it doesn't have staying power, we may be able to grow it very nicely up to 20 million, 30 million even. But no one's going to buy it. And we're looking for the brands that a strategic buyer in particular is going to look at and say, this can be a long-term big brand for us as we're looking for innovation. One of the things we find is that the big food manufacturers are spending an awful lot of money on innovation, and they're mainly buying it because it's too hard for them to innovate internally because it takes a lot of risk, and big companies are averse to risk. They're also like bureaucracy, and it means it's got to keep going through various approval levels. What we like about our business is that we have an idea in the morning, we try it out, at noontime we do a mock-up. We bring consumers in the afternoon and make the decision on it by nighttime and know where we're going. Platform opportunity. This is a question, and as for example, on a baked good, what's great is you can keep making them. You can extend that brand out. Sometimes you have to acquire. Honey Stinger over there is an interesting one because it's in the sports nutrition business. It competes with Cliff Bar, competes with Gatorade, but it has a range of products. So there's a platform ability. There where you can extend out to different people with different tastes and different occasions, as opposed to having to just continually line extend in one form. Great entrepreneur, and this has come up before, but this is what we look for: smart and innovative, passionate and mature. And the maturity is that we see a lot of passion out there that is going to go right down into the ground because it's just sort of uncontrolled. It's that balloon that you let out and it goes somewhere and you don't know where it's going. And we kind of like that degree of lift, but keep it in one direction, keep focused. It's hard. Confident yet humble. Every entrepreneur believes that they have what was we said before with Good Pop. He was going to go to one ACL and retire. It didn't quite work that way, did it? But so you've got to be humble enough to say it didn't quite work that way, but I still believe in what I'm doing and I'm going to keep going. A leader, but willing to follow. You've got to be able to lead, but you got to know when somebody else may be able to lead you better than you can lead yourself, and be able to follow. Hardworking and fun-loving, both really matter to us. You got to work really hard, but if you don't enjoy doing it, and that joy is not contagious, it's we're not really sure that you don't belong with us anyway. We want to have fun all the time, and the excitement that comes from yesterday. We launched a product, and this morning we had, starting last night, we started getting reports of out of stocks. I mean, that was just so much fun, and it just swept through. Everybody was sharing texts back and forth and going online to talk about the excitement of what we had. Obsessive, you got to be obsessive to be an entrepreneur, but you also got to be nice. You can't be so obsessive that you don't have time for anybody else. And I guess the last thing I would say, and it kind of encompasses a lot of these things, is you got to know what you don't know and ask for help. You would be absolutely astounded at the number of entrepreneurs who walk in and look at us and say, yeah, but you don't get it. We've been, between my partners and I have been doing this probably cumulatively over 100 years. We kind of do get it, but we're still only there to help and to teach. And by the way, every day I learn something, and some days I learn a whole lot, and I fall on my face at least once a day. Barriers to entry. You hear a lot about this. I think Warren Buffett's great quote is, differentiation doesn't matter if there's no barrier to entry. Well, they can come in all shapes and sizes. They can go from IP and formulas and raw material access down to branding. A great brand can be a barrier to entry. A great entrepreneur who's just better than everybody else can be a barrier to entry. So, we look at something that says, all right, this is not a product that if we take it to 20, somebody else one of the big companies just going to knock it off. They're just waiting for us to prove the concept. But as long as there are things in there that are unique to what we're doing, we think the barriers are sufficient. What does it all mean? Well, there were, I think I mentioned before, I think 3,700 exhibitors at Expo, Natural Foods Expo in Anaheim this March. Only a few of them are going to achieve their founder's dream. If you put your product to this test, if you go through the criteria that we look at, from differentiation to tasting good to platformable to the entrepreneurial energy to a barrier to entry to those things, if you have a strategy, and by the way, I mentioned strategy, and I did when I was coming up here. The thing I see least out there in the marketplace with entrepreneurs is a strategy. It's like, well, we just do stuff, is what I hear. We do stuff all day long. It's just action. Action and without a strategy is unproductive, but worse than that, it's probably a recipe for failure. You've got to know where you're going. You've got to stick to it, be focused, and you will every day be distracted and advised to go off course. Stay the course. Believe in it, test it out, and then stay the course, and don't let somebody push you off. Consider what everybody says, but don't lurch from one direction to another, because the zigging and zagging just isn't going to cut it. And with that, all I can say to you all is good luck, and if we can be helpful, let us know.
Thank you, Tim. Now we're going to be introducing Lynn Hall, Director of Operations at Garrison Brothers Distillery. Here you go, Lynn.
Hi there. How about I hook 'em, right? Come on. There you go. I'm Lynn Hall. I'm the Director of Operations, or as I call myself, the Minister of Milestones for Garrison Brothers. And I've got Sierra with me here. She is our Mission Control and a recent graduate of your advertising with a master's, and started with us as a intern, and then we just couldn't let her go. My talk today is on I've called it Building Business Through Good Deeds. When Dan started this business, and Dan couldn't be with us today, he is actually up in Manhattan working in events. So somebody said something about working 24/7 and 48/7, so he is passionately on the road for us. But this was something that he said. He said, like everything else in the Lone Star State, our dreams are big from the start, and we just didn't want to make any bourbon. We wanted to make the best bourbon ever. So just a little bit about our company, and then I'll jump into the theme. We were the first legal whiskey distillery in the state of Texas, first to make bourbon outside of Kentucky and Tennessee, and the first distillery actually built in the U.S. post-Prohibition. If you haven't been out to see us, please come out. We sit on a beautiful 68-acre ranch just west of Johnson City. It's about an hour from here. In your gift bags that you may have already picked up, and if you haven't, please come grab one. We've got some free tickets in there for you. Yelp tells us, our guests tell us we have a 5-star rating, and TripAdvisor says that we're the best thing to do in the whole country. So come on out and see us. So our story and the theme for my talk today started with Hurricane Harvey. So we all remember what happened back in August of 2017. And that storm was hitting the coast on that Saturday. The footage that we were seeing on television was devastating. And when this particular shot came up on the television, one of our partners out at the ranch called and said, Dan, we got to do something. These are our customers, these are our families, these are our friends. And this happens to be Spanky's, where Dan himself has done many, many tastings in Port A. But all we do is make really good bourbon. We're not in the food business, we're not in the trucking business, we're not in the water business. What can we possibly do? Within 72 hours, we came up with the idea of, well, first of all, Dan called back to the ranch and he said, how many barrels of bourbon did we put up that Saturday when the storm was hitting the coast? And the answer was 9. He said, okay, how many bottles of boot flask whiskey will that make for us? That would put out about 1,100 of these little guys. So within 72 hours, Rob Cordes, a friend of the business, now our head marketing dude, put together a website. He created a bottle called Hurricane Tough. And the idea was for the first 1,100 people to donate $100 or more to Team Rubicon, and I'll tell you about them in a minute. We would donate those, we would 4 years from now come out to our ranch, because we age our bourbon a minimum of 4 years, and pick up your bottle of Hurricane Tough. And I have the second 72 there because within 72 hours, within the first 20 minutes actually, we crashed the website. There was so much traffic. And within 72 hours, we raised almost $150,000. And Dan will tell you, in the 10 plus years of being in business, those were the most gratifying 72 hours that he's ever experienced. So he goes off on a well-deserved Christmas break, and he watches the third most popular TED Talk, Why? With the message being, I'm sure you guys have all seen it, but people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And he came home and he said, hey, Lynn, we're on to something. Our bourbon can change the world. And we open every dinner we do, every event that we do, every presentation we do with this slide. And that says that good bourbon can change the world. Good bourbon builds solid and enduring friendships. Good bourbon increases one's faith in man and God. And of course, good bourbon creates legendary stories. We went on last year to form a public charity called Good Bourbon for a Good Cause. And we specifically support 2 types of charities, military, veterans, as well as preserving our environment. So as I mentioned, we partnered with Team Rubicon. Anybody in here know who Team Rubicon is? Okay, great, we're working on that. So at this time, when Harvey hit, we only had 11 employees. Dan and his brother Charlie traveling all over the countryside trying to sell bourbon, and 9 guys at the distillery. Of those 9, 5 are former military. So when we were looking for a partner during the Hurricane Harvey relief, Team Rubicon came up to us because they focus on disaster recovery. They have over 85,000 volunteers, mostly here in the U.S., and over 75% of them are former military. So it was a perfect fit for us. So as we focus our giving back to Team Rubicon and also Texas Parks and Wildlife. So we support the foundation that ultimately then continues to beautify our parks. And again, we're in the bourbon business, so how do we do this? Well, we do this through the way that we conduct our business, but we just do it now with that kind of added purpose. So for example, this is Happy Hour in Dallas. Anybody been there? It's a pretty cool spot. They supported us, for example, with 5 consecutive Fridays where we did what we call Red Friday events, remembering our deployed, and all of the funds that we raised through selling the T-shirts, through selling cocktails, we ultimately then were able to give that funds back to Team Rubicon. We also do it through fancy dinners. So Mastro's, for example, probably considered one of the premier luxury steak restaurant in the country. We're in the midst right now of doing a dinner series across their 16 locations. And so they're giving a portion of that ticket price also to Team Rubicon. And we are inviting a Team Rubicon gray shirt into that dinner to spread the word so that awareness does grow for this wonderful organization. We're also in the retail business, right? You can find our bourbon up and down most any liquor store, particularly here in Texas. Well, Total Wine & More is an amazing partner. And so this is an example of in-store signage that they let us do last year for the Balmorhea State Park, which was closed due to disrepair. And we put on a series of classroom events for them where we brought in a park ranger, and we got to talk about our bourbon, they got to talk about the park, and at the end we were raising money for Texas parks. And again, True Lux, that's a restaurant chain you're familiar with, same thing. We partnered with them. They set aside almost $50 a ticket for Texas parks with each dinner that we did with them. So it brings it back to, you've got to, as we've heard several times from our guest speakers, you've got to have the absolute best product. But if you have that and you know how to do it, it starts with the why. And we really do believe that. And then by way of that, then your company, our company, the community, and the charity, that's just a constant rotation of benefit. So we do believe good bourbon can change the world.
Hello. Okay, great, guys. So we have about 3 more speakers. We're all excited to listen to them. Can we move forward, please, a little bit, just so we're closer? Great, thank you. And now I'm happy to introduce Mark Greenberg, co-founder of Plucker's Wing Bar.
Hello, sorry, I've got no voice, so I'll do my best. But I'm going to start off with a video and then go into a little bit of how we got to where we are. So most of you have probably heard of Pluckers. We've been around now since 1995. And everybody's talking about entrepreneur, how to get started, how to build a business. And Pluckers is basically the epitome of a ground-up business from the beginning. The story on the back of our menu, which most of you may have read, if you haven't, go for it. It's true. It literally started with 2 college kids here at the University of Texas, both in the Moody School. And it began with an idea. And everybody talks about with entrepreneurship, you got to have a good idea. But what is a good idea? And a good idea has to solve a need. And to know it's a good idea, it's easy if you are a part of the market that is the need. So you're finding a need, you're finding a cure for something that you need, which is what we did. The pictures behind me that you'll see are just scrolling through historicals of Pluckers. So the first step is you find a need. A lot of times, it's by happenstance. It's not just sitting around brainstorming saying, I need to solve this or I need to solve that. It is much more of something just pops in, and or you might be doing something and go, there's a really big need for this. I wish I had this. For us, it was a restaurant on University of Texas campus that had more than Chinese food and pizza. That was our need. Back in 1991, when we first got here, through 1995, if you were a student at the University of Texas, you lived on pizza places that are no longer here, and you lived on Chinese food that could be delivered. There was nothing like what Pluckers was about to be. So we began by testing the product on friends. We came up with menu ideas. We came up with cool things to do. We put them all out there. There was an event annually at the University of Texas called Texas Chili Cook-Off. Silver Spurs put it on. Well, everybody else was serving chili. We were serving chicken wings. Needless to say, we were more than a hit. There were lines. Everybody wanted what we were producing. People thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. From there, that was the inception of the idea. That was proof to us that it wasn't just an idea. The next step was we had to figure out how to get from that point to brick and mortar, opening the doors, selling a product. Our senior year, fall, we rented a little location that used to be a Mediterranean restaurant over on 23rd and Rio Grande. When everybody looks around, they talk about nowadays, all you hear about is, well, if you want to start a business, let's go out and raise a bunch of money. You got to raise money. Everybody wants to tell you the only way you can make it is if you raise money. While in some businesses, obviously, you need capital. Let me tell you, Pluckers, which today is 23 restaurants and counting, by the end of the year of 2020 will probably be at close to 30 restaurants. Pluckers began on a contribution by myself of $20,000, which was borrowed, begged, stealed, and borrowed, probably from family members, and my business partner's $20,000, and a $24,000 loan that a local bank decided that after going to every bank throughout Texas, they were the one that would agree to a $24,000 term loan. So what today is now no longer a small business was started with $40,000 of cash. That's it. And so people say, well, how do you do that? Well, you do it because you're willing to do anything. Hard work. You can't hire people when you're starting something to fulfill whatever dream you have. It's your hard work. So our first restaurant, literally, we were doing a lot of the building, the demo, the painting, whatever it took. Whenever we opened up, we were in there cooking, waiting tables, doing whatever you had to do to sell your product. We built Pluckers literally one guest at a time. We dealt with every guest that came in the restaurant. We talked to them. I promise you, if you started going to Pluckers back in 1995, we messed up your meal at least 20 times. But at least 19 of them, maybe 20, myself or my partner probably talked to you, gave you free food, brought you additional food if you were no longer in our restaurant, whatever it was. There is no substitute for putting your own blood, sweat, and tears into what you're trying to make happen. We did that for years and years. It was a 24/7, doesn't even begin to define this industry. It was building our base with word of mouth. Our partnership with the University of Texas is a huge building block for us. We partnered with Texas back in probably 2003. And since then, obviously, that's a great branding move because it put Pluckers really on the map as the wing place. And so when you're talking about building a business, it is much more about the effort and hard work that you're willing to put in. It's about coming up with solving a need. It's about how much you're willing to expose yourself versus how much money you can raise all the money in the world. And if you have a garbage idea or you think you're going to get someone else to execute it and it's going to be successful, I'll take your money and we'll do something really good with it because it'll never make it. It doesn't matter what it is. Our case, it happened to be a restaurant, chicken wings, beer, burgers, salads, boneless wings. Obviously, over time, it has evolved. In your case, I don't know what your need is, but you can easily figure it out because at some point during your time, you're going to go, wow, I really wish there was one of these. I don't know what that is. But if you're not the only one wishing for it, it's probably a pretty good idea. The last thing is nothing comes easy. There's no easy roadmap. Anybody that started a business, if they tell you, well, if you just do this, this, and this, you'll be successful, don't believe them. That doesn't exist. There is no easy roadmap. So after, 95, we're now 2019. As you see these pictures, you see Pluckers evolving as we continue to grow. We now have a location. Obviously, we've been in the Darrell K. Memorial Stadium for years. We're now in Minute Maid Park in Houston and the Astros. We're all over the state, and we're continuing to grow. We have built our company on great people. It's not just the people that come in, it's the people that work for us. We have a family culture within our business, and we've always had it since the day we opened. One of our biggest things that we've ever done was back for our 20th anniversary, we wanted to do something big. And we wanted to give back to all the people that have come to Pluckers over the years and supported us since 1995. We also wanted to give back to our employees. So we had a huge event at ACL, a free concert, and watch party. So unfortunately, the game didn't turn out great, but it was a Texas Notre Dame watch party followed by Passion Pit and then the bleachers. It was a huge, huge success. But that was our way of saying to the community here in Austin that supported us, helped us grow, built us, to give back. It was free of charge. They didn't pay for anything. Very fun night. So over the years, we've continued to grow, but we've never lost sight of where we came from. We still teach all of our management. We still promote the same culture. We still promote the same values. Every guest that walks in our restaurant is treated the same today as they were then. They're very important. We never want to lose sight of that. Because to be successful and really continue to build your company, you have to remain grounded to where you started. So, in summation, when you look back and you look to try to see where you're going, if you're coming up with an idea, start with a need. Start with a need that you believe in, which means it's probably one that you have. And then be willing to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to figure out the rest. You're not going to know everything. You might not know anything about some of it. Network, find people that do. Then trust yourself. Put your hard work in. Imagine life with no free time for a long time. But if you do it right, if you end up with the right people, the rewards easily outweigh the blood, sweat, and tears. So I thank y'all for having us. We love our relationship with the University of Texas. Moody, I'm a graduate of Moody. Obviously, if you have any questions, I'll be here. Thank you all.
Now we want to welcome Julie Brewer, the founder of Pupsicle.
Hey y'all, thanks for sticking it out with me here. I will try and be as brief as I can, but I'm just so excited to be back here at Moody and seeing the entrepreneurial community here thriving. While I was here as a career advisor, I met with so many students who are creative with wonderful ideas, and I always encourage them to pursue their passions and face their fears and go after what they were working towards. So it was during that time that I accidentally invented the first bone broth ice pops for pups for my dog, Bodhi. And I was bringing them along to coffee shops to keep her busy and occupied and cool. People started inquiring. And so it started as kind of a fun project with students and friends here at Moody, right here, began to take off and grow. So about a year ago, when we got our Tomlinson's account and things really were picking up, I decided it was time to take my own advice and pursue this as a full-time career. So in the last year, I would say there were days that I've thrived and there are days that I have barely survived. And in the next few minutes, what I'd like to share with you is an honest insight as to what it's been like for me over the last year, and then offer you some practical advice on how you can start to find out if being an entrepreneur and founding your own company will be a good fit for you. So research shows that for a career to be a good fit and for you to thrive, there needs to be 3 elements present. And the first one is passion. You've heard that over and over again, and it is incredibly important, and I would argue the most important in this instance. But there also needs to be 2 other elements present. You need to be good at it, and it needs to support the lifestyle that you envision for yourself. So if we go to the passion point, as a founder, you will face daily challenges. You will be continually pushed out of your comfort zone, and it will be required that you do things that don't feel comfortable. That passion is going to be that thing that gets you up and out every day, even though it's hard and scary. So without that, you really do have nothing, and I will argue that it is the thing that will keep you going. They say that being an entrepreneur is the best course in personal development that you can take, and I would definitely agree with that. One of the first challenges that we faced unexpectedly was we had to fight Pepsi to register our trademark. And they were sitting on our trademark, and I was working with an incredible team of interns and PR students. And they got creative and wrote a letter, and we ended up being able to file our registered trademark without having to pay for a lawyer, which we didn't have at the time. So the next thing, there's passion. The next thing is being good at it. And the problem with being an entrepreneur when you're first starting out, you will not be good at it. I would argue that rather being good at it, you need to embrace problem solving and be open to that, because there's no way you can be ideally prepared to take this on. Amy Simmons of Amy's Ice Cream told me that as a founder of a company, you should expect problems on your doorstep daily, like a doctor expects sick patients showing up. And that's pretty much what it's like. So every day is new, and you will be facing challenge after challenge. So how do you get good at those? Well, this is where it is imperative that you reach out to the community here. If you think about it, you have got every resource right here on campus. And it's really important that you get dialed in and connected with those people who've gone through it before. Daniel right here from Good Pop gave me some of the best advice ever when I called him up and I said, Daniel, can you give me some advice on scaling frozen? And he said, yeah, don't. And basically, that was great advice. It's very difficult. And so we've been on a path to develop a shelf-stable version, which will allow us to do national distribution. But there's people here who've already done some element of what you're trying. And it's important that you ask them for advice, but also that you surround yourself with other people taking risks and getting out there and trying to make their dream happen. Because there are days where you'll wonder, am I crazy for even trying this? So it's really important that you get connected. Austin Not only are you here at UT Austin, but you are in one of the greatest cities in the world to launch a product. Austin is incredibly supportive to entrepreneurs. They love creative new ideas. And it's a beautiful size because it is small enough that you can actually make an impact with your brand, but big enough that it actually matters. So if you're thinking about it, you couldn't be in a better spot than you are right now, and I would really encourage it. It's scary sometimes to reach out and ask for help, but you would be absolutely amazed if you approach it with gratitude and a real interest in learning. It's just been a wonderful surprise, and the people that I've connected with have been one of the highlights of the last year for me. And then lastly, there's that lifestyle. As an entrepreneur, you picture, oh, it's incredibly exciting, and it is. There is nothing cooler than taking this idea you've had and actually watching it end up on a shelf. You get to do things your way to a certain extent, and there's a lot of freedom, but just like anything, that freedom will come with responsibility. So yes, you make your own hours, but the hours are going to be 24/7. If you are not working on your business, it is on your mind. So it's also, if you're considering food and beverage, it's very physical, especially at the beginning. You are cooking, you are delivering, you are showing up at events, you're out selling. So you know, there's a lot of heavy lifting to be done, and just know that that's a part of it. It's also not an overnight get-rich-quick scheme, as you've heard other people share with you. Most companies have been in business for 10 to 15 years before they get to the point where someone might think about acquiring them. So again, it comes back to that passion that's going to make you persevere and keep going after it. So how can you as a student start to explore whether this is a right fit for you? I would really encourage, if you're considering food and beverage, get connected with a group here in Austin called Barcode. It's people just starting out as well as more established entrepreneurs. And if you can find and connect with somebody there that you really respect or you like their brand, perhaps you're good at social media. Maybe you can offer to help with events. Very few people are going to turn you down if you want to offer your help. And that comes with a warning, however. Those types of internships do not come with an instruction manual. And it is chaos. It is, startups are messy at the beginning, and you are switching direction constantly. But there's no better way to find out if you will thrive in that environment than to just jump in and find out without risking your whole savings or your career. And I would really encourage you to do that. As well as, I would say, a part-time job in the industry that you're considering. For me personally, it would have helped a great deal if I had worked in a pet store and a grocery business, just to kind of start to know the lingo and how things happen. So I'd strongly suggest that. If you're not sure how to go about that, I'm going to do a plug for Communication Career Services. It's a great group of people. They're incredibly good at what they do, and they will help you connect to those opportunities. So check in with them, and they'll help you get started. So in closing, I would say that I have learned a great deal over the last year, and Pupsicool, just like any other company, we've got some challenges ahead of us. And whether or not I'm going to be able to get my shelf-stable product done and be able to distribute nationally is still an unknown. But I can tell you that the only regret I will have, no matter what happens, is if I had never tried it. It's got to be that work you can't not do. I've got to try this, and that's when you know it's worth stepping out. The most rewarding part for me has been the ability to offer opportunities for other people to try out their skills and talents and really see a difference and have it have an immediate impact. And I would say that if a small pack of underdogs with virtually no experience can take a crazy idea like dog popsicle and get it on the shelves in 50 locations here in San Antonio, that perhaps there's some future for your ideas as well. So at the very least, I hope that my stories and these other stories here of these founders have inspired you to get out there and start taking those small steps to find that work that you can't not do. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie, for sharing your story and your amazing advice. So we all want to invite Marissa Epstein from the Herb Kelleher Center right here on campus.
Thanks for having me, and thank you to the Moody College for hosting this terrific event. The guests here are phenomenal. So students, I hope you appreciate the level of expertise that's been here today. This is just really incredible. I'm actually starting my first day on the job here at UT. So a little bit about me. I started my career here at University of Texas undergrad. I was in your shoes 15 years ago. I double majored in Plan 2 and nutrition. And then after graduating, I moved to Washington, where I ended up working for Michelle Obama and running her nutrition campaign in the White House called Let's Move. And that was a really exciting time back in 2008. People weren't really talking about food and innovation around it. It was really typical CPG. The industry was pretty stale, and consumer demand wasn't as interesting and complex as it has become. And so it was really exciting to be part of a national initiative that was changing the way people were thinking about eating, and then helping to actualize those changes in the market. So I worked with a number of companies, several Fortune 500s and tons of startups while I was there, to help them think about what consumers wanted and how to innovate out of the status quo, and put things out into the market that help people solve their problems around eating and drinking. So we did lots of cool things, like innovate around drinking water, sending sales up 30% over 6 years in just people enjoying new types of water, like Hint. I'm sure you've heard of that company. We worked with big companies like McDonald's, putting apple slices into the Happy Meal. You all may not remember when it was just French fries, but now you have options, and we love that for consumers. And a number of other folks, whether it was Disney World, putting healthy snacks into their parks across the country, or if it was startups who were just looking for access to capital and expertise and trying to scale innovative ideas. So after that, I went to Stanford, and that's where I come from most recently. I teach food and bev entrepreneurship there, and also ran an innovation business unit where we had a very small $10 million fund, but we're able to help capitalize and then operationalize a number of companies and innovative ideas in the Stanford community. And so Silicon Valley, as you can imagine, is a pretty exciting place for this stuff, but it's nothing compared to Austin. So I could not be more excited to be back here at UT. I'm here to talk to you a little bit today about a class that we're teaching, that I'll be teaching this summer. My role here is as the director of a new nutrition institute that the College of Natural Sciences and the Erup Kelleher Center for Entrepreneurship is putting together. And our mission is fourfold. We're here to help innovation in healthcare, innovation in the community, innovation in entrepreneurship, and innovation in education. And so our mission is to help bring the expertise and the research in the labs that you see here on campus into these 4 domains and actualize those ideas that maybe a business person has or a communication student has but doesn't have the expertise behind it. I really appreciated the remarks earlier with the advice to say that if you don't know how to do something, you need to network and find someone who does. And there could not be anything more true. And that's what we're here to do, is help to connect people who are interested in food and bev to expertise, especially in the nutrition space, to help make your ideas work. So let me tell you a little bit about the class. We're starting it because there's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur. It is wild to see how consumer spend is shifting in this space. 2015 was the first year in which people started spending more on food outside of their homes than they did bringing groceries back to their house. And that trend has continued to increase, as you can see. The number here of $1.3 billion in raised capital is also astronomical. This is the first time, this is just last year's spending investments in the food space. So access to capital and interest in this really demonstrates an unprecedented excitement in the topic. It's also true that the market opportunity has never been bigger. Nearly all Americans report that they're trying to improve their eating habits, and they're looking for a very personalized, unique way to do this. So there's no one product fits all for everyone anymore. So everyone really has a shot at getting it right for a particular customer segment. But at the same time, only a quarter of us believe that we're actually eating healthfully. So you have this disjunct here, and what you can see here is recommendations for how we should be eating, is what you see in those 5 food groups. And that blue line across the middle shows where we're eating. So we're under eating 3 major categories that people are thinking a lot about. How can I get these food groups more easily and functionally into my diet? At the same time, we're all holding the industry responsible and looking for market-based solutions that just aren't there yet. So half of us think that food production is on the wrong track, especially when it comes to food content. The impact of this innovation opportunity has never been more important. Some of the things that we think a lot about is the environmental impact of food production. So I don't know if you know this, but these numbers are pretty shocking. 80% of deforestation, 70% of freshwater use, 30% of HDH emissions are all attributed to the global production of food, which is also the largest reason for species biodiversity loss. So if you're interested in this space for impact, there is plenty of work to be done on the supply chain side. At the same time that we're all spending more on food, there's still 1 in 5 families in America that struggle to put a complete meal on the table, which is crazy for such a developed country. And then when you start to look at the health impact of what we're eating and what our diet looks like as a whole, it's also pretty shocking. Heart disease is still the #1 killer in the US. Obesity rates are at 2/3 and 1/3 for adults and children respectively. And children born in 2010 are the first generation in American history to have a shorter lifetime than their parents. So it couldn't be more timely for you to get involved in this space. If you think that it's just a national issue, though, it's also not true. Just looking here at home in Texas, there are 10.3 million cases of diet-related disease predicted to be our illness rates by 2030, which means that for every Texan going to their doctor's visit, 1 in 3 of those will be related to nutrition. So you can bet that food is going to continue to be on the mind of every single person here locally and then more broadly as a whole. Now, at the same time, consumers expect companies to solve these problems. 2 out of 3 of us think that they have a role to play in thinking through how these issues, how the food industry affects these issues. And so that's why we're going to bring you a new incubator practicum on food and bev this summer. And what we want to do is give you the opportunity to bring an idea to the table and to test it. This is an experiential learning class. There's some academic pedagogy that's the foundation of the course, but you're not going to be doing a lot of reading and you're not going to be doing a lot of sitting down homework excitements. We're going to be putting you out into the field to test your idea. And that's really, as you've heard from many of the entrepreneurs today, some of the best practice methodology for starting a new venture. We want you to work with each other. So you're going to get peer feedback every single week. You're going to get partnered and with industry mentors who have graciously given us their time to spend with you every single week on testing your idea and on testing some of your assumptions. And then finally, you're going to try to learn what it takes to win. So you're actually going to get in front of consumers. We're going to give you product development resources to test your product in front of consumers. And then you're going to keep iterating on that over the 9 weeks until hopefully you have either something you're ready to move forward with, or you have an amazing, amazing, amazing story to tell about how you fabulously failed, which we also consider to be a huge success. So with that, I just want to point out that our table over here is staffed by the lovely Amanda and Ashley, who can answer your questions. I really hope that I see you this coming fall, and if you're interested, take a pic of that QR code and apply. Thank you.
Before we open our food space back up and the jazz band resumes playing, I want to invite up HEB. It's one of our sponsors, so everyone please help me welcome them.
Great, thank you. So we'll keep this brief. This has been awesome. I've really enjoyed listening to all the entrepreneurs. As somebody who graduated from UT here, I feel incredibly humbled to be a part of this alumnus group, and then also really enjoyed hearing about what's happening in the local space here in Austin and at the College of UT. At HEB, we really believe that it's our job to make the life of Texans better, And that really happens at the local level with entrepreneurship and new ideas and how do we talk about health. And I agree, bourbon will change the world. But really enjoyed it, and thank you all for coming.
Okay, can we have a round of applause for all the Ignite talks that we've had? That was amazing. Thank you. So we went right through all 8 different Ignite presentations. I hope you feel inspired. I hope that you actually are encouraged to keep going forward, becoming entrepreneurs yourself, possibly even starting with the incubator that Marisa is running this summer. Moody is super excited to partner with McCombs. I believe one of you actually said that you can find it all here at UT. You just have to look. Your business partners, your future founders are right here in the 40 acres. So get out there, and I really encourage you to start making a difference, as these entrepreneurs are doing here. So our program is coming to a close. We're going to actually start to open up the food again and listen to some music as we wrap at 3 o'clock. But I just want to say a few words. One, I've got a little bit of a list. I want to thank our sponsors, Factory LLC, Tim in the back, and HEB, as well as the Herb Kelleher Center, and all the foodie tables. Y'all are Moody foodies to us. So thank you very much, Ranch Hand, Garrison Distillery, Tiff's Treats, Plucker's Wing Bar, Popsicle, Antonelli's Cheese, Good Pop, HEB, and Factory. Wow. Can we have a round of applause? Thank you. I never do anything alone. I think you'll learn that about being an entrepreneur is it definitely takes a village. And my village is the Moody Imagineers. Anna, Luke, Jake, Jasmine, Mitch, Fabiana, Trina, Shalfen, and Jonathan. Can you all raise your hands? Raise your hands. So these are my Moody Imagineers. They are students who've been volunteering all semester helping to make sure this event went off smoothly. And a lot of them are graduating seniors, so entrepreneurs, you know, they're my stars. I would definitely take a look at them. And then Laura McKnight and Emily Doran from Development has been huge help for me. The AV facilities, Keith Borner and Herb Warndell for helping me put all this together. The jazz band, this is the Ben Zeff Trio. Ben, James on bass, Fabio on drums. They are PhD students in the Butler School of Music. You always want music here, so definitely get their card. Then Shauna Reynolds, who has been our events manager. She's new. I think this is her second or third event. She's been doing great. Shannon Brinkley, and of course Dean Bernhardt, who brought me here to UT this year, who's been forward-thinking to really be the catalyst in fostering innovation and entrepreneurship here at Moody College. So give a round of applause for all those people. Thank you so much. So become a Moody Imagineer. If you're here next year, definitely join the Moody team. Go to our website for resources and encourage others to sign up for our newsletter, which will be talking about innovation and entrepreneurship monthly. So thank you. This is the close. Enjoy the food and the festivities.